Morning, student. Today in theme 9, we will discuss the next two topics, the ideal kingdom and the capital cities. First of all, I am describe you about the ideal kingdom. Court chronicles drew upon many sources to show that the power of the Mughal kings came directly from the god. Then that the power of these Mughal kings that came from the god. One of the legends they narrated was that of the Mongol queen Alanka, who was impregnated by a ray of sunshine while resting in her tent. The offspring she bore carried this divine light and passed it on from generation to generation. So this was the story behind that the Mughal kings were got the power from the god. According to this idea, the divine light was transmitted to the king, who was then became the source of spiritual guidance for his subject. That after taking this divine light, the king became the main source of the spiritual guidance or the religious guidance for his subjects or the people. Mughal painting. Now, in this painting, here you see in this picture, this is the picture of the Jahangir, the fourth Mughal emperor. And the Mughal painting transmitted these ideas in a way that they left a lasting impression on the minds of viewers. Mughal artists from the 17th century onward began to portray the emperor wearing the halo which they saw on European painting of Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary to symbolize the light of God. Now, here in this picture, you also see a sun-like figure at the back of this emperor, which shows that the god gave the power to the emperor. Mughal chronicles present the empires as comprising many different ethnic and religious communities. Through the Mughal chronicles, we also know that the different type of the people, the different religious communities people, they live together like the Hindus, Jains, Zoroastrians, and the Muslims. As a source of all peace and stability of the emperor stood above all religious and ethnic groups, mediated among them, and ensured that the justice and peace prevailed. So this was the main source that peace and stability. That one also the emperor bring this peace and stability because the emperor also the main source and also act as a mediator in between the different religious groups. Okay, so Abul Fazl described the ideal of the Sulekul, absolute peace. Sulekul means absolute peace, peace everywhere, as the cornerstone of enlightened rule. Sulekul are all religious, in all religions and schools of thoughts had freedom of expression, but on condition that they did not undermine means harm. They did not harm the authority. That in the rule of these Mughal kings, that every religion had their freedom and expression, or they had to exercise their beliefs, customs, everything. But the condition is only one, that did not harm the authority of the state. Okay, and or the fight among themselves. So these were the main conditions on the people. But all the religions on that time were free to follow their own religion, like today in this time. The ideal of the Sulekul was implemented through state policies. The nobility under the Mughals was a composite and comprising Iranians, Turanians, Afghans, and Rajput. Means that under this Sulekul policy, the Mughal rulers they were also appointed the different religion people in his court on the different posts. Now the all of whom were given position and awards purely on the basis of their services and loyalty to the king. Not only of that these people belong to that different a particular religion. Okay, they were got the award, they were got the position only based on the basis of their services and loyalty. Further, Akbar abolished the tax on pilgrimage in the 1563 and jizya in 1564, and as they are two were based on the religious discrimination. So Akbar abolished these two taxes on the people in 1563 and 64, the pilgrimage tax and the jizya. Jizya was imposed only on the Hindus people. Instructions were sent to officers of the empire to follow the precept of Sulekul in the administration. All Mughal emperors gave grants to support the building and maintenance of places of worship. Even when temples were destroyed during the war, grants were later issued for their repair, as we know from the reign of the Shah Jahan and the Aurangzeb. So these two kings, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, they were also gave the alms or granted to the temples when these temples were destroyed during the war. However, during the reign of the Aurangzeb, the jizya was reimposed on the non-Muslim subject. Aurangzeb was an orthodox Muslim and he again imposed on the jizya on the non-Muslim people. Now the sovereignty as the social contract. Abul Fazl defined sovereignty as a social contract. The emperor protects the four essence of his subjects or people. That this is the duty of the emperor or the ruler, that to protect these four things, four essence of his people or praja. The first one is the life or jan, property, mal, honor, namas. Then faith, faith, then in and in return demands obedience and a share of resources, that the emperor protect all these four things of his subjects, and in return the people obey all the rules and regulation of the emperor, and the people they were also gave a share of their resources in the form of tax. Now we discuss about the capital cities. The heart of the Mughal Empire was its capital city, where the court assembled. The capital city of the Mughal frequently shifting during the 16th and the 17th century. Now the Babur took over the Lodi capital of Agra. Babur was the first ruler of this Mughal empire and this Mughal dynasty. And Babur made his first capital in the Agra. So during for the 4 years of his reign, the court was frequently on the move. During 5060, Akbar had the fort of the Agra constructed with the red stone, sandstone, and quarried from the adjoining region. Here you see the Agra fort. This Agra fort was made by the Akbar, okay, with red sandstone. Now in the 1570s, he decided to build a new capital, Fatehpur Sikri. Here you see in this picture, this is the picture of Fatehpur Sikri of Agra. One of the reason prompting this may have been Sikri was located on the direct road to Ajmer, where the Dargah of Sheikh Muinuddin Chishti had become an important pilgrimage center. Why? Why the uh, Akbar changed his capital from Agra to the this Fatehpur Sikri? So this was the main reason, because the Fatehpur Sikri was on the way of the Ajmer. Okay. Now here you see in these pictures. These are the pictures of the Fatehpur Sikri. Very beautiful buildings. The enormous arched gateway, Buland Darwaza. Here you see in this picture. This is this Buland Darwaza, Fatehpur Sikri. This enormous arched gateway, Buland Darwaza, was meant to remind visitors of the Mughal victory in Gujarat when Akbar got the Gujarat. Okay, then uh, he made this Buland Darwaza. In 1585, the capital was transferred to Lahore to bring the northwest under great control. But again, the Akbar changed his capital in 1585 from Fatehpur Sikri to Lahore because he wanted to uh, keep on eye on the northwest frontier area. Now, the Shah Jahan pursued south fiscal policies and accumulated enough money to indulge his passion for building. In 1648, the court army and household moved from Agra to the newly completed imperial capital Shahjahanabad. Then again they were changed their capital from in 1648. They changed from Agra to Shahjahanabad. Shahjahanabad means Delhi. It was a new addition to the old residential city of Delhi with the Red Fort, the Jama Masjid, a tree-lined esplanade with the bazaars, Chandni Chowk, and spacious homes for the nobility. So in this was the last capital of the Mughal Empire emperors. Okay, thank you, student.